I've been getting a lot of comments asking me, how do I one-shot? There are probably so many of you who have managed to hit level 260, you got your 6th job unlocked, you hit 260, and now all of a sudden, in Cernium or Burnium, or maybe you even got to Hotel Arcus, you can't one-shot anymore, and it feels impossible to progress. What do? Well, I'm going to tell you what to do, and this is the perfect video for you. In this video, we're going to go over how you can one-shot more effectively, every single thing that you could do to optimize for training, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have very little gear versus when you actually prepare and how much of a damage difference there is. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is why you're even feeling this way in the first place, why you feel like you can't one-shot and things are impossible to train. The reason why it feels like you can't one-shot, like I'm like 3-shotting right now, right, is because of the way that Nexon has set up your progression. Now, obviously, when you're hyper burned, you are flying past these levels, 220, 230, 240, 250, and you're 260, right? You're hyper burned, you're getting a lot of resources for free. It feels super easy, it feels nice, it feels good. And then boom, you're 260 and there's no more hyper burning. There's no more resources. Everything just slowed down a lot. So the reason I'm mentioning this is to say that it's perfectly normal to feel this way. It's perfectly normal to feel like you can't one-shot, and it's perfectly normal to not one-shot. In fact, you can actually still make good rates even without one-shotting, and you could still progress even without one-shotting. So the game takes you up super quickly and then it flatlines quick, and that's normal. That's perfectly normal. You're not doing anything wrong necessarily. I've talked to so many people at this point in the game. They tell me, oh, I got my links, I got my legion, I'm doing my nodes, I'm training my hexa, all this stuff. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. It's perfectly normal. That's the first thing I want to mention. The second thing I want to talk about is the mental. I feel like I'm just yapping, right? But it's actually really important. What I'm talking about is you have to accept the fact that progression gets slower the higher level you get. It's a fundamental law to MapleStory. Progression gets slower the higher level you get. You're not going to get gains every day anymore. Maybe every week you'll get stronger. Maybe every 2 weeks you'll get stronger. Maybe every event you'll get stronger. Maybe once a year you'll get stronger if you're really high level. That's just the way it is. The game gets slower and you have to accept it. Everything in the Arcane River, you can fly by. You feel like you're making new areas. You feel like you're getting new symbols, all this stuff. Eventually, it slows down and you have to accept it for the way it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the way this game is. Now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, what I'm going to do now is I am going to nerf my Night Lord. I'm going to nerf my Night Lord to a point that I think is similar to a lot of people when they hit level 260. I even have the CRA temporary set that you get for hyperburning. I still have it available specifically just for this. So I'm going to put on this stuff. I'm going to remove my 21-star CRA because people are going to be like, oh, but your CRA is 21. I'm going to remove it and I'm going to wear the free CRA. Boom. Wear this one. Remove my weapon, right? No Apso weapon. Free CRA. I'm going to put all this shit on. Next, I'm going to remove my Apsos. Oh, but your Apsos are 20 stars. I'm going to take them off, except for my glove. And now the reason why I'm going to take them off, except for my glove, is because I'm just going to leave these slots empty. This just one piece of gear is going to act like 4 different pieces of gear. It's about equal, like as if you had a Tyrant Cape, maybe a 12-star shoulder with like some stat on it, or maybe like, you know, some sort of shoe. I'm just going to use this one piece to represent all of them. Now, we're going to go over the rest of my gear. The rest of my gear is event rings, right? So I got these event rings just from playing, just from the events. This has hybrid on it, so there's no stat. This has double drop, there's no stat, right? There's no stat on it. It's just raw stats from the ring. This has 2-line luck, which, you know, 18%, not too difficult, and 18% again, nothing too crazy. This is 15-star with Meso, no stat on it. This is 15-star with hybrid, 6% stat on it, so very little stat again. This is hybrid, no stat. Now you might think, oh, it's a Twilight Mark. How am I going to get a Twilight Mark? Honestly, because this has no stat on it and because the flame is shit, its stats are not even that much better than, like, you know, a Zac crystal that has stat on it. And this has double drop, 15-star. For those who don't know, if something is not greater than 15 stars, it doesn't get attack. So I'll show you as an example. If I were to star this Enraged Zachem Cape, which is at 0 stars, and you look at the stats it gets stat, right? Strength, dex, int, luck, and HP and defense, right? That's what it gets. But if I were to star something that's at 15 and go to 16, it gets attack per star as well. So the stars after 15 are very, very, very valuable. And you'll see that my items are not over 15 stars, which means that I'm losing a lot of potential attack that I could get. Whereas some of you guys skills, you might have better gear, right? You might have 16, 17 star gear, which gives you attack, which is a significant increase in damage. So you can see my gear here. Important things to note is my secondary has 2-line attack on it, which I highly recommend getting weapon, secondary, and emblem to legendary because you can get so much damage from them. And my emblem has 1 line of attack with IED. And I have this belt that has 60% luck on it. Granted, superior belt does have 35 attack base on it, so it is pretty good even at 15 stars, but there it is. So my CP has plummeted. It was like at 19 mil and now I'm at like 5 mil. It has plummeted. Next thing we're gonna do to nerf myself is I removed my Legion board. Obviously, some of you might have Legion, but you'll see that I'm not wearing any Legion right now because I know people are gonna be like, oh, but you have Legion. I'm not wearing any Legion right now. Boom. Next thing I'm gonna do is my link skills. I'm gonna take off my link skills. Boom. I have no link skills. Like, I'm getting bare bones, bro. I'm getting bare bones for this shit. Next thing I'm gonna do, nodes. Aha. Some of you might have been like, oh, is he gonna remove his nodes? Is he gonna remove his nodes? Yes. Now, obviously, the most important thing to remove is your trio. I'm just gonna remove one because there's no way that you guys don't have at least like level 25 on your trio on just one skill, right? But at this point in the game, you get so many free nodes. So I'm just gonna remove one of them, and that has decreased my mobbing damage by like 60% final damage. And the next thing I'm gonna do is remove my hyper stats. Boom. Now I am weak as hell. I still have some sacred force because I did my dailies, which you guys should be doing. You should be doing your dailies, and I'm gonna keep my sacred force. The moment you hit 260, just from the free items, right, you get 100 sacred symbols here. Just from the event free resources, like, you should be able to get a level 4 symbol. Like, there's no way you don't. Like, it's just free sack. And then I also have my title on, which gives me a bunch of stats as well, which you get for free from hyper burning. The reason why I removed all of my gear is to show you the difference that link skills, Legion, gear upgrades, nodes, all these things do to increase your damage, because so many people think that they just have to upgrade their gear and that's the only way of getting stronger. No, it's not. There's so many other ways to get stronger in this game without even spending a single meso. So we're gonna go try out the mobs, and I'm probably gonna do like no fucking damage. See, this, even this AFK mob I'm having trouble with. Now you can see that I am struggling to hit these things. I am struggling. I'm barely managing to even kill these things. It takes like, let's actually count how many hits it takes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm 8-shotting, bro. I am 8-shotting. Like, I'm not 2-shotting. I'm not 3-shotting. I'm 8-shotting. So the first thing that we're going to upgrade is our hyper stats. Let's just see how much of a difference hyper stats make. Now, pro tip for hyper stats, the first and most important thing you need to do on your main when you're training is make sure you're at 100% crit rate. So if you're not at 100% crit rate, make sure you are at 100% crit rate, whether that's from link skills or from hyper stats. Very, very, very important. And then the next thing that you want to do, that you want to always remind yourself, is normal damage is the best for mobbing, regular damage is the second best, and crit damage is the third best, right? So usually what I do is I get them all to level 10. And now that they're all at level 10, I still have some bonus points. I'm gonna put maybe 2 or 3 points in normal monster damage because it gets really expensive after 10. Now I could put another point here, but 95 is a lot. So instead I'm gonna put 1 and 1 here because they're both 50, which is, you know, just a little bit more than 95. And now since they're both at 11, I'm gonna put 1 here, 95, and I'm gonna put 2 here. And now I have 50 points left over. Honestly, I probably could have optimized this a little bit more, but it's important to know that because you're leveling still somewhat frequently in this area, you know, 260, 261, you get more hyper stats every level. You don't have to like hyper optimize it because, you know, every time you level, you're gonna get more points anyways. So just make sure you have like a general ballpark of normal damage being the highest, damage being the second highest, and crit damage being the third highest. And whenever you have excess points, you put the rest into attack. And then if you have even less points after that, you put the rest into your stat. And then if you have even more points after that, you put it into your secondary stat. And that's it. So now let's see how much damage I gained just from hyper stats. I went from 8-shot. I was 8-shotting, by the way. I was 8-shotting, okay? Let's try on these mobs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm 6-shotting, which obviously still isn't good, but you can tell that I went from 8-shotting to 6-shotting. Like, that's a very significant increase in damage. And that's just from optimizing my hyper stats. I didn't change anything else. I'm still in dog shit gear. I have no legion. I have no links. Nothing. I went from 8-shotting to 6-shotting just from doing my hyper stats. Now, next thing that I want to talk about is link skills. Link skills. I actually have a bunch of videos on link skills on my channel. I have videos on what links to get first. I have videos on the 0 to 100 event. Obviously, I'll link them down below so you know which link skills to get first. But let's talk about the link skills for training. Ho Young, incredible for training. So let's put on Ho Young link. The power of Legion is crazy. It is crazy how important Legion is to help you train and to do damage to bosses. Lara link, amazing for training. So good. Now, this unfair advantage link, it's really good, but you want to make sure that you're either the same level as the mob or higher level. DA link, let's put on DA link, free damage. Tide of Battle, Ilium link, super good, because if you're moving around, it gives you damage, and obviously when you're training, you're moving around a lot. Since I'm a thief, I'm going to put on Thief link, just because it doesn't take up a slot. Arc link, super important for training. Judgment gives you crit damage. Kinesis link, that's what it is. It's super good for training. Kana link, very good for training. It gives you more damage percent. Now let's just use these 7 for now. Obviously, there's more links that I could put on, but let's just say you don't have that many links yet and you just have some, but you followed a guide and you have some good training links. So let's see the difference now. We went from 8-shotting to 6-shotting, and now let's see how many hits it takes now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost 4-shotting, right? Like 4-shotting, and then the marks cleaned everything up. So we went from 8-shotting to 6-shotting to 4-shotting, and that's just from a few links. Like nothing crazy, like just some link skills I put on. Obviously, there's more link skills that can give us more damage, like Hybrid Logic or Explorer Mage Link, Hayato Link, like Explorer Pirate Link. A lot of these are very good for training. Unfair Advantage as well. You can see that it dramatically increased our damage. We're from 8 to 6 to 4-shotting now. Now, let's talk about Legion. Legion is also very important for training. Now, I have 8k Legion, right? So I have all these outer rings unlocked, but I believe once you hit 2k Legion, you'll start unlocking the outer rings. 2k Legion for the first ring, 3k, 4k, 5k, and then 6k, you unlock the entire grid. But let's just say you don't have a lot of Legion, so you don't have access to most of the grid, right? So what I would do is I would fill in the attack and stat areas first, because you don't have that many Legion blocks and you don't have that much Legion unlocked. If you have a lot of Legion, your Legion board would look something like this. You fill in normal monster damage, you fill in crit damage, and you fill in XP if you can one-shot. If you can't one-shot, then you would fill in the attack and whatever stat you have. That'll help you one-shot, and then the rest would go into XP, assuming you don't need any crit rate. Crit rate is pretty good on most classes these days, so it's like you probably don't need the crit rate, but this is if you have a lot of Legion. I think the highest priority when you're low in Legion is you put into attack and you put into your stat, and then as you unlock more and more rings, you start putting them into normal damage and crit damage. Normal damage is more important though for mobbing. So what my Legion page would look like if I was really low Legion would be something like this. So I just put in some blocks into luck, attack, and normal monster damage, and you can see the bonuses I have here. I have some stat, but obviously I don't use this stat, but I just put in random blocks. Wild Hunter one, it's really good for training. The crit damage blocks are very, very important as well, especially for training. Very important, Hayato and Shade. And the grid bonuses, I got luck 65, 15 attack, and 5% against normal monster damage. So let's go see just how much this little itty bitty amount of Legion changed. We went from 8 to 6 to 4-shotting. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're still 4-shotting, but we're 4-shotting a little bit easier now, right? Now, here's the thing about Legion is Legion gets better as you get more of it. So for example, because I only have these little baby areas like luck and attack, the outer rings give you way more stats. So if we were to hypothetically switch to a higher Legion, right, where we have, let's say, 6k Legion and manage to fill in normal monster damage and crit damage, because you could fill in these two regions once you're at 6k Legion. This doesn't give me any damage from mobbing, so ignore it. I know it's there, but like it doesn't give me any damage from mobbing, so only these are giving me damage from mobbing, and you'll see how much of a difference it makes. Obviously the luck blocks do give you damage, so because I'm a Night Lord, so it's important to get the blocks that you need first rather than just any block in general. Well, let's see how much of a difference Legion makes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're 4-shotting, but we're 4-shotting a lot easier because arc link isn't up. So if we keep hitting these guys, you'll notice that it gets easier and easier to one-shot just because the link skill is stacking up. 1, 2, 3. This almost 3 shots now. We're very close to 3-shotting, right? So we went from 8-shotting to 6-shotting to 4-shotting to almost 3-shotting. And all we did was some Legion. All we did was add some link skills. We could still add more link skills. Obviously, if I have this much Legion, I could fill out my link skills as well. And we did our hyper stats. Now, what are some other ways of getting more damage for free without really doing anything? Obviously, as you train, you'll get more and more nodes. Nodes are a huge source of damage, especially your tri-nodes. I'm missing 50% final damage just off of my nodes. So if you are using boost nodes for mobbing, honestly, I think they're more important than your bossing tri-nodes. If you're a class that has a lot of tri-nodes like Mercedes or something, or you're a Corsair, like the mobbing ones honestly are more important just so you can keep training and you could do more damage. So let's put on our node and see how much damage we do now. 1, 2, 3. Now we are comfortably 3-shotting. Comfortably. As you can see, we're actually almost 2-shotting at this point just because we put on our node. And in my opinion, if you're 2 or 3-shotting, it's good enough to start training even in Cernium. Like, you don't need to necessarily one-shot to get good rates, because if you're 2 or 3-shotting and you're navigating the map well, you can kill almost all of the mobs. And Cernium mobs give you way more XP than Arcane River mobs. They give you way more. So it's actually worth training here, even if you have a less kill rate than in Arcane River, for example. Now, I want to reiterate again, like, I'm at 5.9 mil CP. I don't have good gear. Like, I'm wearing free gear, 15-star stuff. A lot of it doesn't even have stat potentials on it. I'm wearing free shit. The bulk of my damage is coming from my Legion, from my links, from my hyperstats being optimized, from my nodes. These are all things that give you way more damage than anything else. I want to talk about the nodes again because I know people are going to be like, you know, obviously I can't max my nodes. How do I max my nodes? You can actually get artificially max nodes. It sounds really weird, but artificially max nodes by mixing some sets around. So for example, let's say I want my Showdown, which is my main mobbing skill on Night Lord, to one-shot, right? Obviously I have these 2 skills boosting Showdown, but I can also have another skill for the time being, like this one. I could put this on, and if I were to hypothetically level this as well, then I would have 3 skills boosting Showdown for the time being. That way, like, I'm getting more damage. Because once you're 260, you have a bunch of node slots, probably a bunch of extra ones. You could just put on a few skills that also boost Showdown, assuming the leading skill is not the same, right? And then you can gain just a little bit of extra damage just off putting these on. You can even put these skills in +5 slots, so you don't even have to put actual nodes into the skill to level them up. You could just move them to a +5 slot, and now it's as if these skills were level 6. So I got a bonus 12 levels total on my Showdown without even putting any nodes into it. So this could be a really good way of leveling up your mobbing skills just by removing some of your bossing skills whenever you train. Legion Artifact is a somewhat newer system in the game, and you could actually gain quite a bit of damage from the artifact system as well. Obviously, a lot of you guys won't have really high artifact, especially if you're on a new account, but when you're starting out, I would say that Meso and Drop is probably the most important, just because you get more resources, and then crit rate if you really need it. But you can even get stuff like damage percent, crit damage, and all stat and attack that also increase your damage as well. Obviously, if you want a one-shot, you are probably going to have to upgrade your gear, right? I'm on some bare bones gear, but you can get started and start training and make decent money with just Meso and drop gear and nothing really above 15 if you do your links, if you do your Legion, and you optimize your hyperstats, and you have some nodes that you utilize from the event, and you're using the nodes properly on your mobbing skills. I just proved it. Like, you can get going, you can start training by doing that. The next thing that I want to talk about is buffs. This sounds very simple, but I've seen people forget about it, is they don't train with their buffs on. Like, they don't have Shadow Partner on, or they don't have Sharp Eyes on, or anything like that, or they don't have Bleed Dart if you're a Night Lord that gives you attack, or some sort of similar buff that gives you attack. Make sure you have pets, and honestly, I think pets with auto buff is worth it, especially when you're training, so that these skills are just always active when you train, and they'll give you a significant amount of damage. So make sure you have them going, because they're very important. The next thing that I want to talk about is using Red Green Pot and Greater Blessing of the Guild. Red and Green Pot, if you're doing monster pack every day, which you should be, you can use these to train. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, if you train a lot, like you're somebody who grinds a lot, you're not going to have enough Red and Green Pots. But for most people who train maybe an hour, maybe a little more than an hour, 30 minutes, like, you can use Red and Green Pots to train. Like, that's fine. because you'll be able to sustain it if you just do your dailies. And a greater blessing of the guild. These attack sources give you a lot. 30 attack from this, 30 attack from this, and attack speed. Attack speed, because you're hitting faster, you're killing the mobs quicker. It's very, very important. Another thing that's very important that could give you a lot of damage is rotating G skills. So if you don't know what that means, I'm going to tell you. If you're in a guild that has these guild skills, they give you a ton of damage. There's the crit damage one and the regular damage one. You can rotate these two skills. So if I use this crit damage one, boom, I gained 30 crit damage, which is an enormous amount of damage for 30 minutes. When this skill runs out, I would use this one, the damage percent one, and then I would be alternating these buffs, because by the time the damage one runs out, the crit damage one will be back up, and then use the crit damage one again. And when the crit damage one runs out, you use the damage one. So you can rotate these. They have cooldowns that line up like that. So let's see how much more damage I do just because of these buffs that I have now. So I went from 3-shotting to now I am comfortably 2-shotting. To be honest, it's easily 2-shotting at this point. Like, it's at the point that I'm waiting for mobs at the bottom to respawn. Obviously, there's mobs at the top, so you would use the rest of your kit to hit them. Keep in mind that I've only been demonstrating my mobbing just from using Showdown. Like, Nightlord has other skills to mob as well. Like, you have Dark Flare, you have your Urda Shower if you got it, which is very important to get as well. You have your Dark Lord's Omen. You could see that, like, if I use these skills, like, I can easily full clear this map. And this is just with 5.9 mil CP, not a single item above 15 stars, and just the essentials, right? Just doing your Legion, rotating your G skills. All this stuff will help you train a lot. It'll make training so much easier for you. And honestly, when you're at this point in the game where you're able to start training, the progression gets way faster. You're no longer stuck anymore, and everything is within your hands. All you have to do at this point is to just keep training, and everything else will resolve. How do I get money? You go train. How do I get more nodes? You go train. How do I get fragments? Go train, right? The other thing that's very important that I didn't mention yet is the 6th job, the Hexa progression, which is very important. I literally only have my origin unlocked. I don't have my masteries. I don't have my 5th job skills boosted at all. You guys, as you're progressing, you're doing your dailies. Maybe you bought the Soul Urda booster. You do high mount and you get a lot of frags that way. You guys can get so much damage just from the Hexa matrix. Getting these skills, even just at level 1, for most classes like your mastery skill, will dramatically increase your damage, like so much. Soul Janus just at level 1, the Dusk version, gives you so much damage from mobbing. So make sure you unlock these skills as well. It'll help you so much when you're training as well. I don't have the frag, so I can't even do it if I wanted to. There's actually also event resources that can help you one-shot as well. This Dream Messenger, usually events have this type of stuff that give you bonus damage. If you put into the normal monster damage one, I would not recommend going above 4, by the way, for any of these types of events. Going above 4 is so many points. You should just put in other things. This 30% bonus normal monster damage is huge. Like, it helps you mob so much. So make sure you put into this as well. Attack helps you a lot. All stat helps you as well. These 3 things help you a lot when you train. So I was in the middle of editing the video, and there's 2 things that I actually forgot to talk about. The first thing is you actually get a free arcane weapon that I could have equipped this entire time. I could have used this free arcane weapon that they give you as well that dramatically increases your damage, bro. Like, what? My CP went from 5.9 to 8.1, which you get for free from the Hyperburn. So that's another avenue of damage that you could also get for free. But good thing I did the video with the Fafnir, huh? Because what if you don't have the free arcane weapon? But yeah, I wanted to mention that as well. Like, you could also get the free arcane weapon when you hit 260, which is a huge increase in damage. And then the second thing I wanted to mention that I remembered was your hyper skill passives. Certain classes have hyper skill passes that make you mob better. So for Nightlord, for example, there are showdown passives that I wasn't even using this entire time. But if I used this, it would have been a huge increase in damage. And with the arcane weapon, I probably could have one-shotted or got really close to one-shotting. But yeah, I just wanted to remind you guys of that as well, because it's very important to check these things. Very important to see if you have a free arcane weapon available to you and if your hyper skill passives can help you with mobbing or not. But that's basically it. As you can see, there are so many different sources of damage that you can get to help you one-shot without even upgrading your gear to some crazy extent. Like, you don't need all legendary gear. You don't need 17-star gear across the board, 20-star, 21-star gear, whatever, just to one-shot. You don't need that stuff. Just make sure you do your Legion, make sure you do your links, make sure you do your hyper stats, make sure you upgrade your nodes properly, and make sure you're using the right buffs when you train. All these things can make things so much easier for you, and it actually saves you money because you don't have to immediately just spend on on stuff. You buy 2 bill worth of cubes, it doesn't tear up, you get tilted and you quit. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Obviously, if you have any questions, please let me know. If I forgot anything, let me know. But these are the things that I do to help me one-shot, and they've made my progression way easier. If you enjoyed this video, maybe consider helping me out by subscribing or sharing this video, or maybe watching some of my other videos. I have a ton of other guides on my channel as well, and I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Shout out to my members: Blazefire, Shooms, Uju, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Grim4K, Koga, Pabo, Picolnir, Jesse B, Dante Victory, Zats, CK, and Assassin510. I appreciate you guys so much, and thank you so much to everybody who has submitted fan art throughout all this time. I will be forever grateful to all of you, and have a wonderful day.